My wife left early, and at 22:30, I got a message from an unknown number. Your wife is at Marriott Central Hotel, room 512. Come now. I didn't go. Instead, I sent that message to 37 people, including her mother, her friends, and especially the wife of the man with her. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments what city you're watching us from. I sent that message to 37 people and waited. Among those 37 people were Veronica's mother, her sister Isabel, my two brothers, our friends of 23 years, the teachers from the yoga studio where she supposedly taught classes on Saturdays, the neighbors from the building, my business partner, the parents of our children's university classmates. The accountant we shared, the cousin Veronica, spoke to every Sunday, and above all I sent that message to Dulce, Eduardo's wife, because I already knew who was with my wife in that room. I pressed send at 10:33 p.m., left the phone on the coffee table, poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey, and sat on my sofa in my own living room, watching a soccer game that no longer meant anything. I wasn't going to that hotel. I wasn't going to break down any door. I wasn't going to make a soap opera scene. I was going to stay exactly where I was and watch her world crumble in real time. The first replies started coming in 4 minutes later. Alvaro, what does this mean? It must be a mistake. Call me right now. You're drunk. Alvaro, please answer. I didn't answer any of them. I turned up the TV volume, took another drink, and kept waiting because what nobody understood yet was that I wasn't acting on impulse. I wasn't being irrational. I hadn't suddenly gone crazy. This was the exact opposite. This was the result of 3 weeks of planning, 3 weeks observing, documenting, calculating every move, waiting for the precise moment, and now that moment had arrived. At 10:38 p.m., my phone started vibrating nonstop. Calls, messages, WhatsApp notifications exploding one after another. I could see the names on the screen without even touching the device. Rosa, my sister. Esteban, my best friend, Veronica's mother. Isabel, her sister. Dulce, Dulce again, Dulce for the 3rd time. I imagined what was happening at that very moment. Dulce reading that message. Dulce looking up at Eduardo. Eduardo trying to stay calm, making up some stupid excuse. Dulce grabbing the keys to her Mercedes, leaving her house in the suburbs, driving like crazy toward the city center. 23 minutes on the highway. If she drove fast, she could make it in 18. And somewhere in that room, 512, Veronica was watching her phone explode too. Her mother asking where she was, her sister demanding explanations, her friends confused, all those messages arriving at the same time. Where are you now? What's going on? Please, tell me this isn't true. Mama's crying. At 10:42 p.m., I received a message from Rosa. My sister, the only person in the world who knew exactly what I was doing tonight. It's done. Yes, I replied. My God, Alvaro. It had to be this way. I know, but still. My God. I turned off the television. The silence of my house became dense, heavy. For 23 years, that living room had been the center of our family life. The mornings drinking coffee before work, the Friday movie nights, the arguments about which university to choose for the kids, the Christmas dinners with 30 people squeezed between the sofa and the dining room. All of that had ended exactly 19 minutes ago. When I press send, people will probably think I'm an impulsive man, that I acted out of blind rage, that I lost control of my emotions, that I did something stupid in a moment of madness. But they're completely wrong. I'm a civil engineer. I've been building bridges for 26 years, calculating loads, measuring resistance, planning structures that have to withstand 50 years of weight and weather. I don't do anything without thinking about the consequences. I don't sign a blueprint without checking every detail 3 times. And this was no different. Each of those 37 contacts was chosen strategically. Each name on that list had a specific purpose in what was about to happen. Veronica's mother, so she would feel the family shame. Isabel, her sister, so she would lose her closest confidant. Our friends, so they would know the truth before she could invent her version. The yoga teachers to destroy her reputation in the place where she built her alibi. The parents of our children's friends, so the news would reach them too. And Dulce was different. Dulce wasn't part of the social punishment. Dulce was the dynamite the lit fuse, the chain reaction, because Dulce wasn't going to sit around sending messages. Dulce wasn't going to call demanding explanations. Dulce was going to get in her car and go directly to that hotel. And when Dulce arrived at room 512, everything was going to explode in a way I couldn't have orchestrated better, even if I tried. At 10:48 p.m., my phone vibrated with a call. Veronica. I let it ring once, twice, 3 times, 4, 5, until it cut off and went to voicemail. I counted to 20 in my head. The phone rang again. This time I answered. Alvaro. Her voice sounded broken, desperate, terrified. Alvaro, what did you do? Good evening, Veronica, I said with the calmest voice I could find. Nothing serious. I just shared a message I received a little while ago. Are you crazy? Do you know what you just done? You sent that to my mother, to Isabel, to our entire, to 37 people. I interrupted her with precision. Yes. I counted carefully before pressing send. Absolute silence on the other end of the line. I could hear her ragged breathing, the panic in every inhale. Alvaro, please, this is a terrible misunderstanding. Room 512. I said slowly. Marriott Centro Hotel. Right now. Those were the exact words of the message I received. I didn't make anything up. I just forwarded it. I can explain all this. You don't need to explain anything to me, Veronica. Really. But maybe you should start thinking about what you're going to tell your mother when she calls, or what story you're going to invent for Isabel. Or above all, what you're going to tell Dulce when she arrives. Dulce. Her voice went up 3 octaves. You sent this to Dulce. Of course, Dulce was on my list too. I heard a muffled sob, then voices in the background, a woman shouting something I couldn't make out. Footsteps running down a hallway, a door slamming. I have to hang up, Veronica said quickly. Don't worry, I replied. Take your time. I'm not going over there. Don't worry about me. I hung up before she could say another word. I left the phone on the table, leaned back on the sofa, closed my eyes for a moment, and for the first time in 3 weeks, I felt something like peace. I stared at the dark TV screen, my blurred reflection in the glass. A 48-year-old man, gray hairs on my temples that weren't there before, wrinkles around my eyes that arrived without warning, 20 kilograms heavier than when we got married. An ordinary man, an engineer who leaves his house at 7 in the morning and returns at 6 in the evening, who pays his taxes on time, who never ran a red light, who built bridges for 26 years without any of them collapsing. That was me, Alvaro Mendoza, 48 years old. Married to Veronica since we were both 25. 2 grown children. Martin studying medicine in another city. Carolina working at an advertising agency. A house paid off after 18 years of mortgage. A 2019 Nissan, a savings account with $43,000 for retirement. An absolutely predictable life. And that was exactly what I wanted. I was never the type of man who seeks thrills. I never wanted adventures or adrenaline or anything that would risk what I'd built. My father was an alcoholic. My mother worked 3 jobs to support us. I grew up seeing unpaid bills and arguments about money every weekend. When I had my own family, I swore that wouldn't happen. Stability. That was always my religion. Veronica and I met in college. She was studying physical education. I was studying engineering. A mutual friend introduced us at a year-end party. I remember she wore a white dress with red flowers. I remember we danced until 4 in the morning. I remember that 3 months later we were already talking about getting married. She was pretty. She's still pretty. Black hair to her shoulders. Dark eyes. A smile that lit up any room. All my friends told me I was lucky, and I believed them. We got married in June of 2001. A simple wedding in her parents' garden. 120 guests. 3-tiered cake. A waltz we danced terribly because neither of us knew how to waltz. Honeymoon in Cancun with the money our families gave us. 23 years later. We still had the photos from that day in the entrance hallway. For 2 decades, our life was exactly what I planned. Stable job, predictable income, a comfortable routine. On Mondays, she taught yoga classes at a downtown studio. On Tuesdays, I came home late from client meetings. On Wednesdays, we ate together at home. On Thursdays, she went out with her friends. On Fridays, we watched movies. On Saturdays, she had private yoga classes in the morning, and I took the opportunity to fix things around the house. Sundays were sacred. Big breakfast, calls with the kids, grocery shopping together. 22 years doing exactly that. And I was happy, or at least I thought I was. Veronica was a good wife, a good mother. We never had serious fights. There were never shouts or slammed doors or threats of divorce. We argued about silly things like all couples. What movie to watch, whether to paint the living room beige or gray, if Martin should study in the city or go to the capital. Normal things. She cooked well, kept the house tidy, remembered everyone's birthdays, organized family dinners, got along with my sister Rosa, put up with my mother's endless conversations about church. From the outside, we were the perfect family, and maybe that's why I never suspected anything. Because when you have a stable life for 23 years, your brain gets used to everything staying the same. You become blind to the small changes, to the signs that should alert you, but that you ignore because they simply don't fit with the story you tell yourself about your own life. The story I told myself was simple. I have a good marriage. My wife loves me. We're in this together until the end. That story was so solid in my head that when the cracks started to appear, I simply ignored them. The first signs came 6 months ago. Little things. Insignificant if you see them alone, but when you start putting them together, they form a pattern. Veronica started wearing more makeup, not to go out with me, to go to her yoga classes. She told me it was because she'd started recording videos for the studio's social media, content to attract new students. It made sense. I didn't question anything. She started leaving her cell, phone face down, always on the table, on the bed, on the kitchen counter. Before she'd leave it any which way, now always face down. When I asked her, she laughed and said it was so she wouldn't get distracted by notifications. She changed her phone's password. We'd shared passwords for years. I knew hers, she knew mine. It was never a problem. But one day I tried to open her phone to look for the plumber's number we had saved there, and it no longer worked. Oh yeah, I changed it, she told me. The bank made me for security. She didn't give me the new one. On Saturdays, her private yoga classes started to last longer. Before she'd come home at 2 in the afternoon, then 3, then 4. I have more clients, she'd explain. The business is growing. I was happy for her. She started wearing different perfume, more expensive, more sophisticated. I asked her if it was new. Isabel gave it to me for my birthday, she said. I didn't remember seeing it at the party, but I didn't say anything. She started turning down plans with me on weekends. I'm tired. I have a headache. I'd rather stay home. But then she'd go out with her friends without a problem, or so she said. The frequency with which we made love dropped from twice a week to once every 2 weeks, then to once a month. When we did, she seemed to be somewhere else, looking at the ceiling, thinking about something else, and the way she spoke to me changed. Before she'd ask about my day, tell me about hers, we'd share things. Now the conversations were functional. The gas bill has to be paid. Your mother called. The washing machine broke. We were housemates, not spouses, but I still didn't see, because seeing meant accepting that something was wrong. And accepting that meant that my perfect, stable, and predictable life wasn't real. So I made up excuses for every sign. She's stressed from work. She's approaching 50 and has hormonal changes. All marriages go through stages like this. It's normal after 23 years. I lied to myself for months, until one afternoon the lie broke. It was a Tuesday in September 17th. I have the date engraved in my memory. I left work early because a meeting was canceled. I got home at 4 in the afternoon instead of 6. Veronica's car was in the driveway. That was weird. On Tuesdays, she had classes until 7. I opened the door. The house was silent. Veronica, I called. Nothing. I went upstairs. The door to our bedroom was closed. I heard voices inside. A conversation. She was talking to someone on the phone. I was about to knock on the door when I heard what she was saying. No, he can't know, love. Don't worry. Next Tuesday I can. Book the same hotel. Room with a view. This time I froze with my hand in the air, inches from the door. I love you too, she said. See you on Saturday. I went downstairs in silence. I left the house, got in the car, drove to an empty parking lot 3 blocks away, and there, sitting in my 2019 Nissan, with my hand shaking on the steering wheel, I finally stopped lying to myself. My wife was cheating on me. I stayed in that parking lot for 40 minutes, staring at the gray wall of an office building. No music, no radio, just the sound of my own breathing. 40 minutes trying to process what I'd just heard. I love you too. Those 3 words said with a sweetness she no longer used with me, said to another man, to someone who wasn't me. I thought about going back in, going up those stairs, throwing the door open, demanding explanations, shouting, crying, making a scene. But I didn't because something in my engineer's brain activated. That part of me that calculates, that measures, that doesn't act without all the data. If I went in now, she was going to deny everything. She was going to say I misheard, that it was a joke with a friend, that she was practicing lines for a play that didn't even exist. She was going to make something up, and I had no proof of anything. I'd only heard a conversation through a closed door. That wasn't enough. I started the car, drove back to work. I stayed in the office parking lot until 6:15. Then I went home as if nothing had happened. Veronica was in the kitchen making dinner. Pasta with chicken. My favorite dish. "Hi, love," she said without looking up from the pan. "How was your day?" "Normal," I replied. "Lots of meetings." "That's good. Dinner's almost ready." We ate together. We talked about the weather, about a news story she saw on TV, about having to call the gardener because the grass was too high. A completely normal conversation, as if I hadn't heard what I heard 3 hours earlier. And that's when I understood something important. Veronica was a good actress, very good. She could sit in front of me, smile at me, ask about my day, serve me pasta with chicken, and act as if everything was perfect while planning to see another man on Saturday. If I wanted to know the whole truth, I had to be a better actor than her. That night, when she fell asleep, I took her cell phone from the nightstand. I tried to unlock it with her fingerprint while she slept. It didn't work. She'd set it to only work when the screen was active. I tried to guess the password. Her birthday, mine, the kids. Our anniversary date. Nothing. After 5 attempts, the phone locked. I left everything as it was. I went back to my side of the bed and spent the rest of the night staring at the ceiling, thinking. The next day, I started observing. Really observing. As if I were studying a stranger. And that's when I realized that the signs had always been there. I had just chosen not to see them. On Saturdays, her supposed private yoga classes. I started paying attention to the details. She'd leave the house at 9 in the morning. She'd return at 4 in the afternoon. 7 hours for private classes. One Saturday, I asked her how many clients she'd seen. 4, she said without hesitating. 7 hours for 4 people. Yes, an hour and a half each, and travel time between one house and another. She had answers for everything, quick, prepared, as if she'd rehearsed. I started checking our bank statement every night after she fell asleep, looking for suspicious charges, and there they were. Restaurants I didn't know. On Tuesdays, always on Tuesdays, amounts for 2 people, $60, $95. When I asked her about one of those charges, she said she'd gone out to eat with Isabel after her classes. $95 for lunch. Isabel ordered wine. She explained, you know how she is. A week later, there was another charge. Tuesday again, a different restaurant. $82. You went out with Isabel again. No, this time with Yolanda for my yoga class. She always had an explanation. There was always someone else involved in her story. Isabel, Yolanda, her students, the yoga studio, but something didn't add up. One night, I called Isabel, Veronica's sister. "Hi, Alvaro. It's weird that you're calling me. Is something wrong?" "No, nothing serious. I just wanted to ask you something. Veronica told me you had lunch together last Tuesday at that Italian restaurant downtown." Silence on the other end. "Last Tuesday," Isabel asked slowly. "No, I was in Guadalajara all that week for work training." "Oh," I said, trying to sound casual. Then I got the date wrong. "Yes, that must be it." I hung up. I sat in the dark living room with the phone still in my hand. Veronica had lied directly, without hesitation. The next day, I decided to do something I never thought I'd do, something that made me feel like a cheap spy from a bad movie. I followed her. It was Saturday. She left at 9 in the morning, as always, with her yoga bag on her shoulder, black leggings, a sports top, hair tied back in a ponytail. I gave her a 5-minute head start. Then I got in my car and followed her, keeping 3 cars between us. She didn't go to the yoga studio. She drove north on the highway for 25 minutes until she reached a hotel, the Hampton Inn in the industrial zone. She parked her car, went into the lobby, disappeared inside. I stayed in the parking lot with the engine off, waiting. At 9:40, another car arrived, a black BMW, a recent model. It parked near Veronica's. A man got out, 40-something, gray suit, well-coiffed, handsome in that generic way successful men are. He went into the hotel. I stayed there for 2 more hours watching the entrance, feeling something break inside my chest. At 12:30, they came out together. He had his hand on her lower back. She was laughing. They looked comfortable, natural, as if they'd done this many times. They kissed before parting. It wasn't a quick kiss. It was long, deep, the kind of kiss you give when you really care about someone. She got in her car. He got into his. They went in different directions, and I stayed there sitting in my 2019 Nissan, watching my 23-year marriage be confirmed as a lie. That night, when Veronica got home at 4 in the afternoon, I was in the living room watching television. "I love," she said, dropping her bag on the floor. I had an exhausting day for classes in a row. "Good that it was productive," I replied without looking at her. "Yeah, I'm going to take a shower." I watched her go up the stairs. I heard the shower turn on, and I made a decision. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to yell at her or ask for explanations because I still didn't have enough information. I didn't know who that man was. I didn't know how long this had been going on. I didn't know if it was just physical attraction or if she really felt something for him. And above all, I didn't know how to protect myself from what was coming. I needed help. I needed advice. I needed to talk to someone who understood these things. The next day, I called Esteban, my best friend from college, a lawyer specializing in family law, divorces, custody, division of assets. We've been roommates for 4 years. He was my best man. I was his daughter's godfather. We had dinner together once a month. We watched football every Sunday. If there was anyone I could trust, it was him. "Esteban," I said on the phone, "I need to see you alone. It's important." "Sure. When?" "Today if you can. I don't want to talk about this in my house." There was a pause. "Alvaro, are you okay?" "No," I replied. "No, I'm not okay." We met that same afternoon in his office, a 12th floor office with a view of the city center. Walls full of diplomas and certificates. A dark wood desk, 2 leather chairs in front of it. I sat down, took a deep breath, and told him everything. The conversation I heard, the bank charges, the call to Isabel, the hotel, the man in the BMW, the kiss in the parking lot. Esteban listened to me without interrupting, taking notes in a notebook with a serious expression he uses when he's working. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, took off his glasses, rubbed his eyes. "How long have you been suspecting?" he asked. 6 months that I noticed changes, but confirmed 2 weeks. "And she doesn't know that you know?" "No, I act normal as always." "Good," he said. "That's very good." Esteban got up from his chair, walked to the window, stared at the city for a long minute without saying anything. Finally, he turned to me. "Alvaro, I'm going to tell you something you don't want to hear, but I need you to listen to me as your lawyer, not as your friend. Okay, don't do anything yet. Anything. Don't confront her. Don't tell her you know. Don't make any dramatic scenes, because the moment she knows that you know, everything's going to change." "What do you mean?" "I mean that right now you have control of the situation. She thinks she's being careful, that you don't suspect anything. That gives you an advantage. The moment you confront her, you're going to lose that advantage." He sat down again in front of me, opened a drawer in his desk, and took out a folder. "We need to document everything, dates, places, times, expenses, messages if you can get them, photos if possible, everything you can gather over the next few weeks." "What for?" "To protect yourself. You guys have been married for 23 years. You have property together, shared accounts. If this ends in divorce, and it probably will, you need to be prepared. You need to have proof of infidelity. That can completely change how everything is divided. I don't care about the money, Esteban. You should care. You have a house valued at $250. 000. You have savings, you have investments, and if it turns out she's been spending shared money on her affair, that's legally relevant." He opened the folder and showed me several documents. "Look, this is a case I handled last year. A 20-year marriage. The husband discovered his wife was cheating on him. He confronted her immediately. There were shouts, tears, drama. She deleted all her messages. He had no solid proof of anything. In the end, in the divorce, she got half of everything and even asked for alimony. And if he'd waited, if he'd documented everything before confronting her, it would have been completely different. Proven infidelity changes things, not in all states. But in many cases, I leaned back in the chair processing everything he was telling me. How long do I have to keep pretending? As long as you need to feel secure. 2 weeks, 3, a month, whatever it takes for you to gather enough information. And in the meantime, you need to do other things. What things? Esteban took out a blank sheet of paper and started writing a list. First, you need to find out who he is. Full name, where he works, if he's married, if he has a family, all his information. What for? Because if he's married, that gives you more tools. And because you need to know who your wife is with. He could be a con man. He could be someone dangerous. You need to know. Okay. Second, you need to review all your finances. How much is she spending? On what? If she's opened accounts you don't know about. If she's taken out loans. If she's hidden money. How do I do that? Do you have access to her computer? Yes, we use the same laptop sometimes. Good. Check it. Look for bank statements, emails, anything that gives you information, and take pictures of everything. Don't download anything to your phone. Use a USB drive. Keep it in a place where she won't find it. I nodded, making mental notes of everything. Third, talk to your sister, Rosa. You need to tell someone else. You need a support system. This is going to be hard. Very hard. You can't do it alone. I don't want anyone else to know. Rosa isn't anyone else. She's your sister, and she's been through a divorce. She understands. Trust me, you're going to need her. I sighed. I knew he was right. And fourth, you need to prepare yourself emotionally for what you're going to discover, because it's probably going to be worse than you imagine. It's always worse. He looked me straight in the eye. Alvaro, in my experience, when someone finds an infidelity, the first thing they discover is just the tip of the iceberg. Underneath, there's much more time, more lies, more betrayal than you're ready to process. Do you think she's been with him for a long time? I don't know, but you need to be prepared for that possibility. I was silent, feeling the weight of all this become real. One last thing, said Esteban, and this is important. You can't act differently with her. No being cold, no being distant, no passive-aggressive behavior. You have to keep being the same Alvaro, as always. If you start acting weird, she's going to suspect. And if she suspects, she's going to be more careful. Or worse, she's going to confront you first, and then you lose all your advantage. How am I supposed to do that? How can I act normal when I know what she's doing? I didn't say it was easy. I said it was necessary. I left that office with a to-do list and a weight in my stomach that I'd never felt before. That night, I called Rosa, my younger sister, 43 years old, divorced for 5 years, no children, an elementary school teacher. The most direct and honest person I know. I need to talk to you, I told her. When? Now. Can I come over? Sure. What's up? I'll tell you when I get there. 30 minutes later, I was sitting in her living room with a cup of coffee I wasn't going to drink, telling her everything. Rosa listened to me with the same serious expression she gets when one of her students tells her a serious problem. When I finished, she stood up, walked to her kitchen, came back with a bottle of whiskey and 2 glasses. Drink up, she said, pouring me 3 fingers. You're going to need it. It's 8 at night, and your wife is cheating on you. I think you qualify for a drink. I took the glass. I drank. What do you think? I asked her. I think Esteban is right about everything, especially about documenting. When I divorced Ricardo, I had no proof of anything, just my word against this. It was a disaster. It cost me years and $30,000 in lawyers. I didn't know it had been so difficult, because we don't talk about it, because it's embarrassing, because it's painful. But yes, it was terrible. And if I'd known then what I know now, I would have done everything differently. She sat in front of me, holding her own glass. Alvaro, I'm going to tell you something even harder, something no one will tell you. But you need to hear it. What? This is going to hurt a lot. It's going to hurt more than you can imagine now. There will be nights when you can't sleep, days when you can't eat, moments when you'll want to forgive her just to make the pain stop. But you can't. Why not? Because if someone betrays you in this way, with this naturalness, with this ability to lie while looking you in the eyes, that person doesn't change. And if you forgive her, the only thing you teach her is that she can do it again and you'll still be there. She took a long drink of her whiskey. When Ricardo cheated on me, I forgave him the first time. He cried. He swore it would never happen again. He told me it had been a mistake, that he loved me. And I believed him because I wanted to believe him, because 20 years of marriage carries weight, because getting divorced is scary. And what happened? He did it again 8 months later with another woman, and that time it was worse because he hadn't just betrayed me. He'd shown me that I wasn't even worth his promise. She wiped her eyes quickly, as if she didn't want me to see her vulnerable. Don't make my mistake, Alvaro. Don't cling to something that's already broken just because you're afraid to start over. I'm 48 years old. Rosa, I don't want to start over. No one wants to, but sometimes it's the only dignified option. I stayed at her house until almost midnight talking, planning. She gave me an empty USB drive. She explained how to take screenshots without leaving a trace. She told me to check the bank statements for the last 6 full months and find out who he is, she said before I left. That's the most important thing, because if he's married, his wife deserves to know too. That idea stayed with me all the way home. If he was married, there was another person in the world going through the same thing as me, without knowing it, living a lie. Believing their marriage was fine, and maybe that person deserved to know the truth too. For the next 3 weeks, I became someone I didn't recognize, a spy in my own house, an actor in my own marriage. Every morning, I woke up next to Veronica. I'd kiss her on the forehead. As always, I'd ask her what her plans were for the day. We'd have breakfast together, coffee with toast, the same superficial conversations as always. And all the while inside, I was documenting, observing, memorizing. I started with the shared laptop. One night, when Veronica fell asleep early, I opened it. I checked the browsing history. It had been completely erased, not a single page saved. That was already suspicious. I looked in her downloaded files. Nothing unusual, invoices, receipts, family photos. Then I checked her email. She had 3 accounts, a personal one I knew about, one for the yoga studio, and a third one I'd never seen. A Gmail account with a name I didn't recognize. Veronica.lisano@gmail.com. Lisano was her maiden name. I tried to log in. It asked for a password. I tried the usual ones. Nothing worked, but now I knew a secret account existed. That was enough for now. I checked the bank statements for the last 6 months. Rosa was right. There was a clear pattern. Every Tuesday, a restaurant charge between $80 and $100. Every 2 weeks, a charge at the Hampton Inn for $120. Always the same hotel. And there was more. Purchases at clothing stores I'd never seen her wear. $300 at a downtown boutique, $200 at another, $150 on lingerie. Lingerie I'd never seen. I added it all up. In 6 months, she had spent approximately $4. $200 on things related to her affair. Our money. Money I earned working 50 hours a week. Being used for hotels with another man. I took photos of every bank statement with my phone. I transferred them to the USB drive Rosa had given me. I kept the drive in my car, in the glove compartment, where Veronica would never find it. The next step was to find out who he was. I waited for the next Saturday. Veronica left at 9 in the morning, as always with her yoga bag, with her casual smile, with her goodbye kiss that no longer meant anything. See you in the afternoon, love. Have a good day. I gave her a 10-minute head start, then got in my car and followed her, this time prepared with a camera I'd bought 2 days before, a small digital camera with a good zoom. $200 in cash, so there would be no record in our bank. Veronica drove to the same hotel, the Hampton Inn in the industrial zone. She parked, went inside. At 9:40, the black BMW arrived, the same one as the previous time. The man got out. This time I paid more attention. Navy blue suit, tie, expensive shoes, a perfectly ironed white shirt, hair with some gray. Tanned. The bearing of someone important. I took pictures full zoom, his face, his car, the license plate. He went into the hotel. I stayed there waiting in my Nissan with my heart beating too fast, with my hands sweating. 2 hours later, they came out together. I took more pictures, them walking to their cars, him with his arm around her, she laughing. The kiss before they separated. I had the photos, now I needed the name. When the BMW left the parking lot, I followed it. I kept my distance. 3 cars between us. Like in the movies. He drove for 20 minutes to a residential area, big houses, manicured lawns. The kind of neighborhood where people with money live. He parked in front of a 2-story house, cream-colored, large windows, a silver Mercedes in the driveway. He got out of the BMW, walked to the front door, took out his keys, went inside. He was married. I wrote down the address. Montez Street, number 243, Los Pinos neighborhood. That afternoon, when I got home before Veronica, I searched for the address online, in public records, on social media pages, and there it was. Eduardo Ramirez Soto, 45 years old, owner of a real estate company, Ramirez Properties, with offices in 3 cities, married to Dulce Ramirez, 2 children, 12 and 9 years old. His photo was on his company's website. The same face. The same man who kissed my wife in hotel parking lots. I looked for more information. His Facebook profile was private, but I found his wife's, Dulce Ramirez, 42 years old, an interior designer. Her profile was full of family photos. Eduardo with his kids at the beach. Eduardo and Dulce at an elegant dinner. The whole family at Disneyland. The last photo was from 3 weeks ago. Eduardo and Dulce toasting with wine glasses. The caption said, 18 years together. I love you, my love. 18 years of marriage, 2 young children, and Eduardo spent his Saturdays in hotels with my wife. I felt something strange at that moment. Not just rage, but also a kind of sad solidarity with this woman I didn't know, Dulce, who smiled in her photos, who posted happy things about her marriage. Without knowing her husband was lying to her every week. She deserved to know, but it wasn't the time yet. I saved all the information, full name, address, his company's phone number, Dulce's Facebook profile, everything on the USB drive. That night, when Veronica came home, she acted as usual. What a long day, she said, dropping onto the sofa. For classes in a row. I'm dead. Poor thing, I replied. Do you want me to order food? You don't have to cook. You're a sweetheart. Yes. Please. Pizza is fine. I ordered pizza. We ate watching a series on Netflix. She rested her head on my shoulder. I put my arm around her like a normal couple, as if nothing was wrong. And all the time, I was thinking about Eduardo Ramirez in his house in the Los Pinos neighborhood. About Dulce designing interiors without knowing her own life was a lie. The next day, I went to Esteban's office again. I showed him everything, the photos, the bank statements, Eduardo's information, Dulce's profile. Esteban reviewed each document carefully, taking notes. This is solid, he said finally. Very solid. You have photographic proof, you have financial evidence, you have a complete identification of the lover. This is exactly what you needed. And now what? Now you have to decide what you want to do. How you want this to end. I want a divorce. Are you sure? Because once you start this process, there's no turning back. I'm sure. I can't keep living this lie. I can't keep acting as if everything is fine when I know she's with another man every week. Esteban nodded. Okay. Then we need to prepare everything. I'm going to draft the divorce documents. I'm going to include all the evidence of infidelity. We're going to request an equitable division of assets, considering her misuse of shared funds. And we're going to do this in the cleanest way possible. How long does it take? It depends. If she cooperates, it can be relatively quick. 6 months. If she fights, it could take more than a year. Is she going to fight? I don't know. People react in unpredictable ways when faced with the consequences of their actions. Some accept their responsibility. Others become combative. We have to be prepared for both scenarios. I leaned back in the chair, feeling the weight of it all. Esteban, there's something else I want to do. What? I want Dulce to know. Eduardo's wife. She has the right to know her husband is cheating on her. Esteban frowned. Alvaro, I understand the impulse. I really do, but involving third parties can complicate things legally, emotionally. I don't care. That woman has 2 young children. She has a life built on lies. If it were me, I want someone to tell me. Did someone tell you? Did you get that anonymous message? I froze, processing those words. Wait, you think it was Dulce who sent me that message? I don't know, but think about it. Who else would know exactly which hotel they were in? In which room? At what time? It had to be someone very close to Eduardo or Veronica or someone from the hotel. Possible, but unlikely. Hotels don't go around sending anonymous messages about their guests. I thought about it for a long moment. If it was Dulce who sent me that message, it means she already knows. It means she's been suspicious for a while. It means maybe she's waiting for me to do something. Exactly. Then I have to contact her. I can't let her stay in the dark. Esteban sighed. If you're going to do this, do it carefully. Don't contact her directly yet. First, finish preparing your own case. Secure your finances. Consult with your accountant. Talk to the kids if necessary. And when everything is ready, when you have all your ducks in a row, then you can think about contacting Dulce. How much time do I need? 1 more week, 2 at most, to be fully prepared. Okay, 2 weeks. I left that office knowing the clock was already ticking. 2 more weeks of acting, 2 more weeks of pretending, 2 more weeks of kissing a woman who was no longer my wife in any real sense. And after those 2 weeks, everything was going to explode. The next 2 weeks were the longest of my life. Every day felt like walking on glass. Every conversation with Veronica was a perfectly executed performance. Every night beside her in bed was a silent torture. But I followed Esteban's instructions to the letter. I talked to my accountant, explained the situation. We reviewed all our finances together, savings accounts, investments, the value of the house, everything. He gave me detailed documents of our financial situation on paper, signed, certified. I separated my important things, personal documents, photos of my children when they were little, gifts from my father before he died. I stored them discreetly at Rose's house, 1 box at a time, so Veronica wouldn't notice anything was missing. I spoke with Martin and Carolina. My children. I told them I needed to see them separately to talk about something important. Martin came first, on a Saturday, when Veronica was supposedly at her classes. I took him to breakfast at a restaurant far from home. Dad, what's wrong? He asked before the coffee arrived. You're scaring me. Your mother and I are getting a divorce, I said bluntly. He froze with his fork suspended in midair, looking at me as if I'd spoken in another language. What? Why? Because your mother has been cheating on me for months with another man. I watch him process those words. The confusion, then the denial, then something like rage. Are you sure? Completely sure. I have proof, photos, documents. Everything. Does Mom know that you know? Not yet, but she will soon. Martin put down his fork. He rubbed his face with both hands. I can't believe it. Mom was always the one who talked about family, about values, about marriage being sacred. I know. And now it turns out that God, Dad. I'm so sorry. You don't have to apologize for anything. This isn't your fault or Carolina's. It's between your mother and me. But it's going to affect all of us. Yes, it will. That's why I'm telling you now. So you're prepared, because when this comes out, it's going to be ugly. There's going to be drama. There are going to be people taking sides. And I need you to know that you don't have to take any sides. You can love your mother and be disappointed in her at the same time. Martin nodded slowly. What do you need from me? Nothing. Just for you to understand. And to take care of your sister when she finds out. This is going to be harder for her. When are you going to tell Carolina? Tomorrow. The conversation with Carolina was worse, much worse. My daughter was always closer to her mother, more emotional, more sensitive. At 23, she still called Veronica 3 times a week to tell her everything. I took her for a walk in the park, bought her a coffee, and told her the truth. She cried a lot, for almost 20 minutes sitting on a park bench with her head in her hands. It can't be true, she said between sobs. Mom wouldn't do that. Mom's not like that. I'm sorry, sweetie, but it is true. Are you completely sure? Maybe there's an explanation. Carolina, I've followed her. I have photos of her with that man, leaving hotels, kissing. I have bank records for months. There's no other explanation. She wiped her eyes with the sleeve of her sweater. Who is he? A married businessman with kids. Oh my God. Her voice broke again. This is going to destroy everything. Our family. Everything we thought we were. I know, and I'm so sorry. I wish I could protect you from this, but I can't. When are you going to tell Mom? Soon, very soon. Can I talk to her first? Maybe if I tell her you know, she can. No. I interrupted her firmly. You can't tell her anything. This has to happen a certain way, for legal reasons, for protection. I need you to trust me. What, Dad? Carolina, promise me you won't say anything. She looked at me with those eyes I'd known since she was a little girl, scared, confused, wanting to fix something that couldn't be fixed. I promise, she whispered finally. With my children informed, with my finances secured, with all the evidence documented, there was only one more thing to do. Decide exactly how I was going to confront her. Esteban had given me two options. Option 1, private confrontation. Sit down with her. Show her the evidence. Give her the divorce papers. Keep it between us until everything was legally processed. Option 2, public exposure. Make the truth come out in a way that involved more people, especially Dulce, Eduardo's wife. Option 1 is cleaner, Esteban had told me. Less drama. Fewer complications. Faster. And Option 2. Option 2 is more emotionally satisfying, but also riskier. It can turn into a disaster. It can make her more combative. It can extend the process. For days I thought about it, about what I really wanted, about what would make me feel there was justice in all this. And then that message arrived, the anonymous message. Your wife is at the Marriott Central Hotel, room 512. Right now. It was 10:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. Veronica had left 2 hours earlier. She said she was going to dinner with Yolanda, a colleague from the yoga studio, that she'd be back before midnight. And there was that message from a number I didn't recognize where she was, with whom, in what room. Someone else knew. Someone else was involved in this, and that someone wanted me to know now. I stared at my phone screen for several minutes, feeling everything I had planned change in an instant. I could go to the hotel, confront them there, make a scene, but that was exactly what I didn't want to do. Or I could do something different, something no one would expect, something that would make the truth come out in a way I couldn't achieve alone. I opened my contact list, started selecting names. Veronica's mother, her sister Isabel, my brothers, our close friends, the parents of our children's classmates, the yoga studio teachers, the accountant, Veronica's cousin, and above all Dulce Ramirez. 37 people in total. I copied the message exactly as I'd received it. Your wife is at the Marriott Central Hotel, room 512. Right now. My finger hovered over the send button. Once I did this, there would be no turning back. Everything would explode publicly, socially, in a way I couldn't control. But maybe that was exactly how it needed to explode, because Veronica had built her affair on secrets, on lies, on a perfect public image while doing the opposite in private. And the only way to destroy that was with truth, public truth, truth reaching all the people she'd been deceiving too, not just me. Everyone. I pressed send. The message went out to 37 people at the same time. I left the phone on the table, poured myself a whiskey, and waited. The replies started coming in 4 minutes later. Confusion, disbelief, questions. I didn't answer any. At 10:38 p.m., my phone started to explode with calls. Rosa, Esteban, Veronica's mother, Isabel. I didn't answer. And then at 10:42 p.m., I received a message from Rosa. It's done. Yes. My God. Alvaro. It had to be this way. I imagined what was happening at that moment. In room 512 of the Marriott Centro. Veronica watching her phone explode. Messages from her mother, her sister, her friends, all asking the same thing. Eduardo watching his own phone. Messages, calls, especially from Dulce. Dulce getting into her Mercedes, driving towards the center. 23 minutes if there was traffic, less if she drove fast. Veronica's mother calling a taxi. Isabel canceling her plans. Our friends messaging each other, trying to understand what was happening. Veronica's entire social world collapsing in real time, and me here in my living room drinking whiskey, watching a soccer game I didn't care about, completely calm, because this wasn't rage, this wasn't impulsive revenge. This was calculated justice, perfectly executed. At 10:48 p.m., my phone rang. Veronica. I answered. Alvaro. Alvaro, what did you do? Her voice was broken, terrified. Nothing. I just shared a message I received. Are you crazy? You sent that to my mother, to Isabel, to 37 people. Yes. I know. I sent it. Silence. Alvaro, please. This is a terrible misunderstanding. Room 512, Marriott Centro Hotel. Right now, those are the exact words. I can explain. You don't need to explain anything to me. Veronica. But maybe you should think about what you're going to tell your mother or Dulce. Dulce, you sent this to Dulce. Of course. I heard voices in the background, shouting, running footsteps. I have to hang up. Don't worry, I'm not going. I hung up and leaned back on the sofa, feeling, for the first time in months, something like peace. The next 30 minutes were the strangest of my life. Sitting in my own living room in silence, while my phone vibrated nonstop on the table. Incoming calls, text messages, WhatsApp notifications exploding one after another. I could see the names lighting up on the screen, but I didn't touch the phone, I just watched. Rosa called 6 times, Esteban 4, Veronica's mother 3, Isabel 2. Numbers I didn't recognize. Probably friends trying to understand what was happening. And then, at 11:05 p.m., I received a message from an unknown number. Thanks. A single word, nothing more. I stared at that word for a long moment, trying to understand who had sent it. And why. Dulce, Eduardo's wife. Thanking me for exposing him, or someone else, someone who'd been waiting for this to explode. I didn't reply. I just saved the message. At 11:12 p.m., my doorbell rang. I got up from the sofa, walked to the door, looked through the peephole. Rosa. I opened it. My sister came in like a hurricane, with red eyes, disheveled hair, still in her pajamas with a jacket over them. Are you crazy? Those are her first words. Alvaro, what did you do? Exactly what I had to do. You sent that message to 37 people, including Veronica's mother. Her whole family knows now. Good. Let them know. Rosa collapsed onto the sofa, covered her face with her hands. Esteban called me. He's furious. He says this complicates everything legally. He says you acted without consulting. So what? I don't care. She looked up. She looked at me as if she didn't recognize me. Alvaro, this isn't like you. You don't do these things. You're the calm one, the one who thinks. The one who calculates everything 3 times before acting. I calculated this too, for 3 weeks, and decided this was the only right way. The only right way was to do things as Esteban told you. Private confrontation, divorce papers, everything clean and tidy. That wasn't justice. Rosa, that was just convenient, practical, but it wasn't fair. I sat in front of her. Veronica cheated on me for months, maybe years, I don't know yet, but what I do know is that she built a whole parallel life. With lies, with secrets. While I worked to pay for her romantic dinners with another man. While I slept next to her, believing we were happy. My voice broke a little. I controlled it. She made me look like an idiot to myself, and probably to other people who already knew, because there's always someone who knows. There are always rumors, glances, comments that you don't understand until later. So, this is revenge. No, this is consequences. There's a difference. Rosa sighed. She leaned back on the sofa. What do you think is happening now at that hotel? I think Veronica is facing the truth for the first time in front of people she can't lie to so easily. Her mother, her sister. Maybe Dulce. Dulce is Eduardo's wife. Yes. God, that poor woman. That's why I sent her the message too, because she deserved to know before another day passed living a lie. My phone vibrated again. This time I answered, it was Esteban. Alvaro, what the hell did you do? What I had to do. We had a plan. We'd agreed to do this in an orderly way, and now you sent that message to half the world. Yes. Do you know the complications this can cause? Veronica can argue that you defamed her publicly. She can ask for more in the divorce for emotional damage. She can try. I have all the proof. Photos, bank statements, everything documented. If she wants a fight, we can fight. I heard Esteban take a deep breath on the other end. Alvaro, I'm your friend, and as your friend, I'm telling you, I understand why you did it. I understand the rage, the pain, but as your lawyer, I'm telling you, this is going to complicate everything. I know, and I accept it. Okay, then now we have to adapt. First thing, tomorrow morning, you come my office. We're going to prepare a strategy for what's coming, because this isn't going to just blow over. I'll be there. I hung up. Rosa was looking at me with a strange expression, a mix of concern and something else. Maybe admiration. I wasn't sure. You know what's the weirdest thing about all this? She said, What? That you look calm. Calmer than I've seen you in months. How is that possible? I thought about her question for a moment. Because for 3 weeks, I was carrying a secret that was killing me. I knew the truth, but I had to pretend I didn't. I had to act, smile, kiss a woman who was betraying me, sleep next to her every night, knowing what she was doing every Saturday. I poured another whiskey, and now I don't have to carry that secret alone anymore. Now, 37 people know. Now the truth is out there, and that makes me feel free. Rosa nodded slowly. I understand. She stayed with me until almost midnight talking, sometimes in silence, just being there. When she left, I was alone in the living room. Veronica hadn't come back. I didn't expect her to tonight. I went up to our room, our bed where we'd slept together for 23 years. I lay down on the side that had always been mine. I looked at the ceiling and waited for sleep to come. It didn't. Sometime in the early morning, around 4 a.m., I heard the front door open. Footsteps coming up the stairs. The bedroom door opened. Veronica came in. Her eyes were swollen from crying. Her makeup was smudged, her hair disheveled. She looked destroyed. I sat up in bed, turned on the nightstand lamp. We looked at each other in silence for several seconds. We need to talk, she said finally, her voice hoarse. Okay, let's talk. She sat on the edge of the bed, on her side, looking at the wall. How long have you known? 3 weeks. She turned to look at me, surprised. 3 weeks. And you never said anything? No. Why? Because I needed to be sure. I needed to have proof. I needed to fully understand what was happening before I acted. She covered her face with her hands. God, Alvaro. 3 weeks, acting normal. 3 weeks pretending. How could you? The irony of that question wasn't lost on her, because if anyone had been acting for months, it was her. Who sent you that message? I asked. The one tonight. Who knew where you were? She shook her head. I don't know. I really have no idea. Dulce. Maybe. I don't know. Eduardo says she's been suspicious for weeks. Maybe she followed us or hired someone. I don't know. She went to the hotel. Veronica nodded, her eyes filling with tears again. Yes. She arrived 20 minutes after the messages started coming in. She came straight up to the room. Eduardo tried to stop her, but she just walked in, saw me there. And she knew. What did she say? Nothing. She didn't say anything. She just looked at me for what felt like an eternity. And then she turned to Eduardo and said, You have until tomorrow to get out of the house. And she left. Veronica sobbed. My mother went too. Isabel too. Everyone went. It was horrible, Alvaro. It was the most humiliating thing I've ever experienced. Good. She looked at me, surprised by my response. Good. How can you say that? Because I've been living with humiliation for months. Every time you went out to see him, every time you lied about where you were, every time you spent our money on hotels with another man. I was the one being humiliated. I just didn't know it. Veronica was quiet. No arguments, no defenses, just silent tears running down her cheeks. How long? I asked. How long have you been with him? She took a while to answer, as if calculating whether it was worth continuing to lie. 8 months. She said, Finally. It started in February. 8 months. More than half a year. Not the 6 I had documented. A full 8. How did you meet? At the gym. He works out there on Tuesday mornings. I teach classes. We started talking. At first, just casual conversations, then coffees. And then hotels. She nodded. You love him. The question took her by surprise. She looked up at me. I don't know. I thought I did, but now I don't know anything. And me, do you still love me? Alvaro. It's a simple question, Veronica. Yes or no? She wiped her eyes, took a deep breath. I don't know if I love you in the way a wife is supposed to love a husband. I think I stopped feeling that years ago. But I respect you. I admire you. You're a good man, a good father. I wanted to feel something different, something exciting. So why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ask for a divorce before doing this? Because I was scared of destroying everything, our family, our life, what people would think. And I thought I could have both things. Stability with you and excitement with him. I thought I could handle it. But you couldn't. No, I couldn't. I got out of bed, walked to the window, looked at the empty street outside. Tomorrow I'm going to Esteban's to sign the divorce papers. I said without turning around. You can stay in this house until we find a permanent solution, but I'm moving in with Rosa temporarily. I can't keep living here with you. Alvaro, wait. We could try. We can go to therapy. We can. I turned to look at her. Veronica, you lied to me for 8 months. You looked me in the eyes every day and lied. You used our money to pay for hotels with another man. You made me believe we were happy while you were building a parallel life. There's no therapy that can fix that. People forgive infidelity all the time. Maybe, but I'm not one of those people. And honestly, after what you said a minute ago, after admitting you stopped loving me years ago, why would you want to stay? For the house, for the money, for appearances? She didn't answer because we both knew the answer was probably all three. I want a divorce. I continued. Clean fast. We're going to divide everything equally. The house, the savings, everything. I'm not going to fight over material things. But I'm not going to stay in a dead marriage either. And the kids. The kids already know. I told them a week ago. They're processing it. Carolina is very hurt. Martin is angry. But they'll be okay eventually. Veronica turned pale. You told them before I knew. I needed to prepare them for what was coming. So you planned all of this? Everything? Yes, I planned it, except for tonight's message. I didn't expect that one. But when it arrived, I knew exactly what to do with it. She shook her head, incredulous. I don't recognize you. The Alvaro I know would never do something like this. Would never be so cruel. The Alvaro you knew trusted his wife. He believed his marriage was real. That Alvaro died 3 weeks ago when I confirmed you were cheating on me. This is me. Now, I headed for the door. I'm going to sleep in the guest room. Tomorrow I'll pack my things. In 2 days I won't be here anymore. Alvaro. What? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I stopped in the doorway without turning around. Me too. I left, closed the door, went downstairs, made myself a coffee, even though it was almost 5 in the morning. I sat at the kitchen table and waited for the sun to rise. At 7:30 in the morning, my phone buzzed. A message from Esteban. Come to my office. At 10, bring all the documentation. We're going to start the official process. I'll be there. At 8, another message came from a number I didn't recognize. I'm Dulce, Eduardo's wife. I need to talk to you. It's important. I stared at that message for several minutes, deciding whether to reply or not. Finally, I wrote, okay, when and where? Today at 2 p.m., Cafe Genova, downtown. I'll be at a table in the back. I'll be there. At 9 in the morning, Veronica came down, already dressed. Makeup on to cover the ravages of the previous night. Bag in hand. I'm going to stay with Isabel for a few days, she said. I need space to think. Okay, Alvaro. Really, I'm sorry. You already said that last night. She nodded, walked to the door, stopped before leaving. For what it's worth, Eduardo ended everything last night. After Dulce left, he told me he couldn't continue, that he had to try to save his marriage, that this had been a mistake. And how does that make you feel? Like an idiot, I lost my marriage for someone who in the end left me too. So, I guess we both paid the consequences. She left without another word. I was left alone in the house, in the heavy silence of a home that was no longer a home. At 10, I was at Esteban's office. I signed papers, reviewed documents, authorized the official start of the divorce process. It's going to take between 6 and 8 months if everything goes well, Esteban explained. Longer if she complicates things. I don't think she'll complicate things. We talked last night. I think she understands this is over. Good, that makes everything easier. At 2:10, I arrived at Cafe Genova, a small place downtown, wooden tables, soft music in the background. Dulce was sitting in the back, as she'd said. I recognized her immediately from her Facebook photos, but in person she looked different, more tired, more real, more broken. I approached her table. Dulce. She looked up, nodded. Alvaro, thanks for coming. I sat in front of her. We ordered coffee. We waited in uncomfortable silence until the cups arrived. I guess I should start by thanking you, she said finally, for sending me that message. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. I've been suspicious for 3 months. 3 months seeing signs, changes in him, but I had no proof, and he denied everything. When I received your message last night, I finally had the confirmation I needed. Was it you who sent me the original message, the one I received first? She nodded. I hired a private investigator 6 weeks ago. It cost me $2,000, but it was worth it. He followed him, documented everything, and last night he told me they were at that hotel. He gave me the room number, and I thought you deserved to know too. Why didn't you go directly? Why involve me? Because if I went alone, Eduardo was going to make up some excuse. He was going to say it was a work meeting, that I was crazy. But if he knew too, if more people knew, then he couldn't deny anything. She took a sip of her coffee. I didn't want to hurt you, really, but I needed the truth to come out in a way that couldn't be hidden. And you did it perfectly by sending that message to 37 people. It was brilliant. I don't know if brilliant is the right word. For me it is, because now I can't go back. I can't pretend nothing happened. I can't stay quiet for my children. The truth is out there, and that forces me to make decisions I should have made years ago. Are you getting a divorce? Yes. This morning I spoke with a lawyer. Eduardo has already left the house. He's living in a hotel. Ironic, isn't it? She smiled sadly. And what are you going to do? The same, divorce. I already started the process this morning. We were silent. Two strangers united by the betrayal of our partners. You know what the worst part is? Dulce said, it's not the betrayal. It's not the lie. It's realizing that I wasted years of my life believing in something that wasn't real, that while I was planning our future, he was living a double life. I know exactly how that feels. She reached her hand across the table. I took it. We're going to be okay, she said. Both of us. Eventually. Yes, eventually. 6 months have passed since that night. 6 months that changed absolutely everything. The divorce was finalized in April. Veronica didn't fight. She signed everything Esteban prepared. The house was sold. We divided the money exactly in half. $125,000 for each of us. She moved into a small apartment near the yoga studio. I rented a modest place downtown, 2 bedrooms, a view of a quiet park. The first few months were hard, very hard. There were nights I couldn't sleep, days I could barely work, moments when I questioned if I'd done the right thing. But Rosa was there. Martin and Carolina were there. Esteban was there. And slowly, very slowly, I started to rebuild myself. I stopped thinking about Veronica every hour, then every day, then every week. The pain turned into something more manageable. It didn't disappear, but it stopped controlling me. I went back to doing things I'd stopped doing. I started running in the mornings. I joined a book club. I took Italian cooking classes. On Thursday nights, I learned to be alone without feeling lonely. Carolina and I rebuilt our relationship. At first, she was very angry. She felt I had destroyed the family. But over time, she understood that the family was already broken. I had just stopped pretending. Martin was more direct. He told me he was proud of me, that I had done the right thing, that he admired that I hadn't stayed in a situation that made me unhappy. Veronica and I saw each other 3 times after the divorce, to sign papers to divide the last things. Short, polite, distant conversations. The last time I saw her was in May at the wedding of a mutual friend's daughter. We were at different tables. She went with Isabel, I went alone. We greeted each other from afar. A nod of the head, nothing more. I felt nothing. Not anger, not pain, not nostalgia, just nothing. And that's when I knew I had truly healed. Eduardo and Dulce also got divorced. She got custody of the children. He has visits every other weekend. The house in the Los Pinos neighborhood was sold too. Dulce and I stayed in touch. Not as a couple, as friends. 2 people who went through the same thing and understand each other. We have coffee once a month. We talk about how our lives are going, how our children are, about the ups and downs of the healing process. In June, she told me something that stuck with me. You know what's ironic? It took me 18 years to realize that Eduardo wasn't the man I thought he was, and it only took me one night to destroy that illusion. One night, one message, and everything changed. Was it the best night of your life? It was the worst, but it was also the beginning of the best decision I've ever made. I understood exactly what she meant. One day in July, I was walking through the park near my apartment. It was a Sunday afternoon. The weather was perfect, families having picnics, children playing, couples holding hands. I sat on a bench with a coffee watching life go by, and for the first time in months, I felt truly at peace. I didn't miss my old life. I didn't miss the predictable routine. I didn't miss sleeping next to someone who lied to me. I missed the idea of what I thought I had, but not the reality of what it really was. My phone rang. A message from Martin. Dad, Carolina, and I want to invite you to dinner next week. Just the three of us. It's been a long time since we've done that. I smiled. I'd love to. Tell me when. I put the phone away, finished my coffee, and kept walking. Life after betrayal wasn't easy. It wasn't quick, wasn't painless, but it was honest. And that was worth more than 23 years of comfortable lies. People sometimes ask me if I regret how I handled everything, if I would have done anything differently. And the answer is no, because sending that message to 37 people wasn't cruelty, it wasn't revenge, it wasn't madness, it was justice. It was putting the truth where everyone could see it. It was taking away the power Veronica had over me through secrecy. It was showing her that actions have real consequences, and it was freeing myself from the burden of carrying that truth alone. Was it dramatic? Yes. Was it public? Definitely. Was it satisfying? Absolutely. Because for the first time in months, I was in control. Not her lie. Me. And that control allowed me to close a chapter of my life in the way I needed to close it. With dignity, with truth on my own terms. I learned something in these 6 months, something no one tells you when you're in the midst of pain. I learned that sometimes the only way to heal is by completely destroying what was broken, not trying to repair it, not pretending it can be fixed, simply accepting that it's over and building something new from scratch. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean staying, that you can forgive someone and still choose to never be near that person again. I learned that stability without honesty isn't stability, it's just a pretty prison. And I learned that I deserve better than to be someone's second choice, that I deserve to be truly loved or to be alone, but never again to live a lie. Today I'm 49 years old. I live alone in an apartment downtown. I work on the same bridges I used to build. I see my children every 2 weeks. I have coffee with Dulce once a month. I have dinner with Rosa on Fridays. My life is simpler now, smaller, less predictable, but it's mine, completely mine, honest, real without secrets. And that's worth more than any marriage built on lies. Sometimes when I pass by the Marriott Centro, I think about that night, about the message I received, about the 37 contacts I selected, about the send button, and I don't feel regret. I feel gratitude because that night, with a single message, I got my life back. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs to appear at the right time in front of the right people and let the consequences unfold naturally. I didn't destroy my marriage that night. I just stopped protecting the lie that had been destroying it for months. And it turns out that made all the difference.